There is more on the illegal migration bill, actually, whether or not Rishi Sunak will defy the House of Lords and invoke the Parliament Act to make it law. A few minutes ago, I heard from the Tory MP Marco Longhi. With me now, and I think this is vitally important, is Conservative peer, Lord Peter Lilley. Thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. So you could be bypassed under Rishi Sunak's plans if it happens. How do you feel about that?
Well, I very much hope the Lords will not collectively try to delay the bill. The House of Lords exists simply its only power is to ask the House of Commons to think again, to say, look, we think that clause should be changed, that clause should be added, that clause should be deleted, send it back to the House of Commons. The House of Commons doesn't agree, it comes back to us, and normally we will accept the House of Lords as the House of Commons decision because they're the elected House, they have the power. In extremis, the House of Lords can delay something by voting against it, and then the government can bring it back the next year, and the House of Lords then loses any right to alter it at all. That's very, very rare. I think if the House of Lords were foolish enough to go to that extreme and force the government to invoke the Parliament Act to drive it through next year, that would be the House of Lords committing suicide. The people of this country would say, these people are so out of touch, are so opposed to everything we stand for as a country that they've got to go. So I don't think the House of Lords is in a suicidal mood, and I hope it won't do that.
Well, that's a vital point that you've just made. I'm glad that you've raised it, because does the future of the House of Lords actually hinge on the way that they handle this illegal migration bill? We do have a democratically elected party, not government necessarily at the moment, because Sunak obviously hasn't stood for election, but a democratically elected party, and that's the way it works, that won a stonky majority at the last general election. We have an illegal migration bill that does have public support, despite what you may see on social media. It does have public support. That is currently being blocked by the House of Lords. I mean, it would be suicide, would it not, for the House of Lords to keep knocking it back? I mean, if they want to continue to exist, they're going to have to actually wave it through and just accept it, despite what, you know, a particularly loud bishop might think of the whole thing.
Well, at the moment, the House of Lords isn't blocking it. The House of Lords is considering it, suggesting various amendments and so on. Some of those will be passed, will go back to the House of Commons. What the crucial point will come then, will the House of Lords try and persist in altering or rejecting the bill? If it does, that's, in my view, a risk of the House of Lords committing suicide, but there's no way that the
What do you back that? Sorry, Lord
subsequently force the bill through.
Can I just drill down on that a little bit? If the House of Lords continues to try to, you know, make these amendments to hold it up, to stall and to delay, I will be fascinated to know your answer on this. I mean, would you, as someone who sits in the House of Lords, actually openly call for it to be abolished?
I wouldn't, but then I've got a rather vested interest, so I shouldn't take much notice of my view. I rather enjoy having this platform, and I've been pulling the platform away from under my feet. But the same is true, of course, of all members of the House of Lords, of all parties and none. They would be pulling their own platform from under their own feet if they did something so foolish as to reject a bill which has been passed overwhelmingly by the House of Commons, which has the overwhelming support of the British people, which clearly is urgent and important, and to try and delay that for another year would be absurd. I can't believe they'll do it.
Do you think this is as serious as being an outright national emergency, and actually there should be more urgency attached to what Rishi Sunak is trying to do with this illegal migration bill? And dare I say it, some of the people in that House of Lords will have massive houses, will have massive estates, and are not the ones who are offering to put people up in their spare rooms, and it is ordinary members of the British public who are having to deal with asylum seeker hotels on their doorstep and the consequences of an insecure border in a way that the House of Lords won't. Should they be given a short, sharp wake-up call, maybe made to go and stay in one of these asylum seeker hotels?
And share a room, perhaps, with other asylum seekers. Yes, that's rather an interesting idea. Perhaps I'll put down an amendment to that effect. No, a lot of them are just out of touch. The Liberal Democrats put down a wrecking amendment which would have killed the whole bill if it had gone through. And the spokesman said we shouldn't even bother to try and control immigration. It's pointless, he said. When I said, so that's your view, is it, the Villa Dems? And yet you are, I think what a catastrophic effect that would have on the housing problem in this country. It's bad enough letting 600,000 people a year net come in legally. But if we had no controls, the housing crisis would be beyond measure. And yet the Lib Dems oppose every single plan to build new houses throughout the country. So we've got this incredible hypocrisy resident in the House of Lords, particularly in the Lib Dems, to a lesser degree in the Labour Party, to quite a strong degree in the crossbenchers.
OK, look, thank you very, very much. I must say it's been fantastic to have you on the show, and good luck. I hope that you personally are not abolished anytime soon, although the institution itself may well face a different future.
Can I say a word about your next issue about the D-Day?
Oh, yeah, please.
My father was first lieutenant on the minesweeper, which swept the mines away the night before the landing to clear the way for the landing, for which he got the DSC, which is a very high award. He never told me quite why he got it. But I'm sure he did it that this country should be free. He knew when we were free, we'd sometimes make good decisions, we'd sometimes make bad decisions, we sometimes have good policies, we sometimes have bad policies. But he'd much rather we were free than that we weren't. So he would be, even if things are going not so well at the moment, he would say, thank God we won, thank God we're a free country. He might even, I don't know, I never discussed things like Brexit, but I think he would have supported the idea of us taking back control over our own destiny.
Just quickly then, Peter, whilst you've raised this, would your father be happy with the country that he saw today? Do you think we've done people like your father justice?
He didn't fight, and nor did any of his generation, in order to have justice done or get rewards or get medals or anything. He did it. I remember asking him, I said, were you doing it because of the terrible things the Nazis were doing to the Jews? He said, we didn't know about that. If we had, that would have been a good enough reason. Why we fought was that we didn't want other people to make our laws, control our policies, run our country. And we thought if Germany ever got control of Europe, it would control us. Okay. Nazi Germany. So that, I don't think they're worried about how they should be respected, how they should be treated. They fought because they were patriotic people. When they voted Labour, voted Conservative. My father wasn't Conservative. They did it for their country, and they'd be satisfied that their country is free. They wouldn't be satisfied necessarily with the policy of the government at any moment. Half of them would approve of it, and half of them would disapprove of it. But they'd be glad they had the choice.